another request. So we've been doing some lives and some videos in the past, and we were having a bit of trouble with Instagram, but it seems like some things have updated, and I think all these changes will be in our benefit from now on. So we've been doing a few talks about conscious parenting, and we thought about changing it up and following Dr. Shefali's new book, The Parenting Map, in kind of discussing the 20 steps that she's lined up in the book on all the things parenting. So her Conscious Parent and the Awakened Family book are a little bit more philosophical. She is kind of going through a different perspective of parenting and helping us ground ourselves into a different world, a different way of looking at the relationship between parent and child, and at our children, and at ourselves, actually. So in the parenting map, she's kind of taken all of that information and broken it down in 20 steps. And the steps are a bit linear, even if the process is not linear, but it gives us a little bit of a start. So I think in this journey of parenting, we all find ourselves overwhelmed at times, and we want to know, okay, but what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do it? And this is the book to do that. And we will have a book club running at some point soon. That will be a project of its own. It'll be like a workshop, but supporting that project, we will have these weekly talks. So we will take 15-20 minutes to just take each step and discuss a little bit more and kind of give you guys 3 different perspectives. We are 3 different coaches, and there's Fati, right when I said 3. We each come from different parts of the world. I am in Romania, but lived in the States for 20 years. Poonam is in Australia, of Indian background, and Fati is just a mix of the whole world in one being. She is Indian and Greek, was born in South Africa and now lives in Dubai. So she's seen the world and people from different cultures and backgrounds. And in our discussions, we always talk about how no matter what culture we come from, the struggles are the same. The feelings and experiences are the same. And this is what brought us together in a fascinating way. And so we want to bring this experience to all of you. So we can start with Poonam, and tell us a little bit about you and the book, and how you found this book different than Dr. Shefali's other books, and how do you think it'll help?
Yeah, so as Anna said, my name is Poonam. I'm a mom of 2 grown-up boys. So in this mix, the 3 of us have different experiences where parenting is concerned. Fati's got younger siblings, and Fati is a Montessori teacher. She'll tell you more about her when she speaks. Anna's got a young child she's currently raising, who's kind of totally dependent on her. And I have experience where I've raised boys who are grown-ups now, and I can actually have conversations of my own parenting journey with them, like not only learning from my experiences, but also being able to gauge how during the parenting. I've been able to identify a lot of what technically people call mistakes. Although whosoever's joining us, and if you're raising a young family, we all learn as we go, and there is no right or wrong. It's just a conscious growth pattern that you can follow and make things better from here on, like I am doing with my grown-ups. Like my older son is 30 and the younger one is 27. And I'm making amends from what I've learned over the last few years, being a conscious parenting coach. So it's a very unique journey, and there is no right time to start. You can start now, and you can make it better for your children, for yourself. So in this book, this is a very special book that Dr. Shefali has written, and I'm very fascinated with how this is a difficult topic to put in a map kind of a book, but she's done her best, and she's given us such beautiful nuggets that we can practically use to raise ourselves as parents so we can raise our children better. The only thing that actually stands out for me in this book is that parenting is one connection that you have with another human that is very unique. You can never have this connection with any other relationship. This is something very unique, because we consider children our own, and the way we think that we have to make sure that we do the right thing by our children, we don't invest so much in any other relationship. But in saying that, if you have more than one child, your relationship with each child will be unique, and each of your children will have a different kind of demand on your energies, on your time, on your emotions, and a lot of other things. So that clearly shows that if you are a parent, and if you think that there could be a book that could teach you how to parent, you could learn it once and apply it on all of your children. But that's not the case. And that's why I call Dr. Shefali's book very unique, because she will teach you in this book how to understand yourself and how to understand the uniqueness of each of your children and deal with that uniqueness in a very unique way. So that's the beauty of this book. We'll go into details every week as to how she's created this map where you can go on a journey with us and learn from these little nuggets every week, so you could implement those things into your daily life, into your interactions with your children, and make things better for you. But I wouldn't want you to say that you're doing a bad job. Every parent is doing a good job, but there is always room for improvement. Over to you, Fatih.
Hi, everyone. I think Anna and Poonam introduced me well, but I'm Fatima, and I'm a conscious parenting coach. A Montessori educator, and I think that what brought me to this approach, or to Dr. Shefali, was understanding that when I was teaching, understanding that moment where you realize, how do I need to change in order for my environment to change? And so I think this is the core of Dr. Shefali's book as well, is saying that firstly, I think it's creating awareness, and it would be then how can we connect with those around us. Dr. Shefali's journey and book is a very, I would say, transformative one, because in every moment you are transforming. So it's a book and it's more than a book, like Poonam said. It's almost like a way of life, because you learn how to go towards deeper connections with not only with your children, but in every relationship. And as well as you come now from a place of understanding. And that, I think, when in the stage 1 of Dr. Shefali's book, she talks about going from frustration to clarity. And that means clearing our mindset and understanding our beliefs. And this is the step of creating awareness, understanding our expectations that we have on our children and those around us, instead of focusing on how they should be and who they should be. But when we focus on this aspect of it, of how our children should be, how others should be, and who they should be, this kind of taints that ability to connect with them and understand and connecting to their authentic selves. So it's been really a transformative journey, and it allows us to shift that perspective, to see beyond the chaos of everything externally and around us, and to then shift that focus inwards. And I think that's the hardest step, is that going inwards towards ourselves and creating that awareness. And like Poonam said, it's for everyone, because it's about reparenting the self before we can reparent anyone and those before us. So I think that's the step for growth, I would say,
Yeah.
and
The
transformation.
challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hardest part is to acknowledge that
Yeah. To
we,
sit in that awareness.
yes, yeah, that our subconscious is actually driving everything, and we are not consciously making decisions on how we respond to the stimuli that is our children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
It
think,
made me,
yeah,
go
go
ahead,
on.
Fatih.
I'll wait for you.
It made me think of our children's behavior. I don't think as parents we sit to think that we actually act the same, right? Like sometimes you can tell when your child is acting out that there's something underneath. Like it's not just the reactor, like something is bothering, especially for like really hard moments that go on day after day after day.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you're like, okay, what's going on? And you can't see it, you don't know it. So in order to get that underneath out, you have to connect with the child, right? If we tell the child to stop it, it's not going to solve it. If we tell the child to move on with their life because it's not important, it's not going to help.
Mm-hmm.
And different things can happen, right? It's very complex, and there's lots of layers to our behavior. But in the same matter, we act. And the easiest way to recognize this delusional chaos and I don't even know what to call it, this insanity, sometimes I call it insanity,
Mm-hmm.
is when we sit in our heart and we know that our intention is to love us, to love them. Every parent has this intention, like I want to love my child, I want to be
Mm-hmm.
there, I want to support them, I'll do anything, I'll die for them. We say all these things, right? And then in action we do completely different, and then we're like, what is going on? So instead of sitting in the guilt and the blame and the shame of that, let's get curious, because the shame and blame comes from the victimhood, and then that's our kind of narcissistic trait that again comes out of our subconscious and we don't realize it. But when we put a stop to that and we ask ourselves, okay, obviously I don't know what to do, and I need to learn some things and I need to discover some things, then we can start to explore. And this is what the parenting map is. It is a map, and it's so amazing at giving you all the little things, all of that mumbo jumbo that we don't know what it is, but we just feel it as heaviness and as a place that gets us stuck. We'll get clarity through this book.
Yeah.
And I can even read a couple of things like focus on the right problem. It is so important to know that there's two things happening, or four or seven, at
Mm-hmm.
every moment, and we have to learn to discern what's what and what's the right problem, right? Being right is not always a good answer. So we will learn that connection comes before being right. Connection comes before teaching our child a lesson. Connection comes, like I always give parents this example. If your child hits another child, what do you do first? Right?
That's
Like,
a trick question,
it's
Anna.
a trick question. So we'll talk about this, but I'll give you a quick answer and tell you that your child matters first. There's a time to put in place all the lessons, but empathy for both parties comes first. And that is the hardest thing because it hits our parental ego and we want to fix the situation real quick so that we look like a good parent, and then our child is left feeling unseen, and then the other child is like, what's going on? So there's an order to things, and we will bring clarity through this project and through these talks so that you can actually take tidbits of solutions. And I recommend putting them into practice week by week. So if you listen to one of our talk and we talk about one step, sit, like Fatih was saying, in awareness in that particular week and look for situations that draw out that specific thing. So if it's focus on the right problem, look for situations where there are problems and try to guess what are the two things that you see. And then what would be the right problem? It doesn't have to take hours. It can just take a few minutes of awareness. And then you take a piece of paper and you say, what am I feeling? And you discover the conflict inside of you as a parent. And then you draw a line. This is what I feel. And I also feel this. And I don't know which one to go first. And then our talk will kind of be a guide to that. And then you see, like, okay, what has happened when I acted on this step? And this is how we put things into practice. And this is how transformation and change comes. It's not enough to just read the book and have the moments of awareness. We have to apply it. And yes, with grace and patience, we are all human and we're messy. And no matter, 10%, 20% of application of these theories, we will do something. And that little seed will start to grow. And over the years, you will become a different kind of parent. And let me tell you, children are so beautiful in the way that anything you give them as far as connection, they take it as if it's like the best gift of life. They don't even want you to be perfect.
No.
They just want you to, every now and then, really connect with them and stop, the pattern of talk that they've heard for years. I see it in my life with my son.
Make them
and
feel seen and heard.
Exactly.
I mean, we all want to be seen and heard.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
It's not just the kids.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
When we do this process, we actually see ourselves, right? We look inside ourselves. Okay, what's this? What's this? And if we're able to do that on ourselves, we're able to look, okay, behavior is just an effect of the cause of the underlying situation. So then the child feels seen. It's a win-win. It's a beautiful practice that will make both parent and child feel fulfilled.
I think the first step is to embrace the ignorance, to acknowledge and embrace that there are things that we might not know, and then open our hearts and minds to learning and growing.
Yeah, I think this step, this step of awareness seems seemingly simple, one would say. But I think
that's what I struggled with the most.
Just creating this step of awareness can be, it can profoundly change the way you relate to your children, the way we relate to others, and that awareness is what transforms us from feeling frustrated, feeling helpless, and it opens those doors to gaining that clarity and connection that we seek from our kids. So that's why I always say it's not always for children. It might be in those moments where when your child is throwing a tantrum. It might be in, where your child is trying to negotiate whether to go to school or not. It may be in all of these small, unique challenges that we face. But I can say that this process, the book of the parenting map is, I think, the word universally applicable.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it deeply transformative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel, as parents, our egos are so big, we try to pretend that everything is perfect. And we hide our struggles from the world and we suffer in silence, you know. So when we don't reach out for help or we don't share our struggles, we are doing a great disservice to our children, because our inability to own up our ignorance is actually affecting the way we are dealing with our kids. So I just want to say this to everyone, that we don't intuitively know how to raise children, especially in this world, because everything is so fast paced. Things have changed dramatically. You know how they say it takes a village to raise a child? We don't have the village anymore. We've destroyed the village. So the uniqueness of the village, where people more experienced than us were contributing to the raising of the child, is not available to us anymore. So we have to become the village, and it will take a conscious effort on our parts to understand that we have to raise ourselves to be the village, because when we have children, like, we still haven't fully grown ourselves. We are still learning life. And then the children come into our lives and they're totally dependent on us. And it's the biggest mismatch. And if we acknowledge that, and if we start investing our time and energies into learning better ways of connection and love and warmth and care than the pretend ones. Like, we all say we love our children. I'm not doubting it. We all love our children, but we don't know how to connect. We don't know how to see them. And the best way to identify that is, like, let's say your teenager yells at you, "I hate you." How do you react? If you loved your child, I mean, you do love your child, but in those moments, when they are raging, you are raging the same way as they are raging. How dare you say you hate me? How dare you talk to me like that? I've had that instances, like, a couple of times in my life when I was growing up. As a teenager, I was rude to my dad, and my dad was like, "You're not supposed to talk to me like this." And he wasn't wrong, because in his generation, he was raised where the hierarchy had to be respected. Just by the virtue of him being older than me and him being my father, I was not supposed to say anything to him. And there's nothing wrong with it, because that's how he grew up, and that's how he thought parenting would be, that your child is supposed to respect you. But he never tried to understand the cause or the reason of my anger. So I'm not saying he didn't love me. He's probably, I've learned the most from him, and especially my consciousness journey. So that's going off on another tangent. But in that moment, he didn't have the tools to connect with me. But the parenting map is going to give us tools and ways to connect with our children, so to make them feel seen, heard, and to give us amazing opportunity to raise ourselves to be better parents.
Yeah, and that goes back to what Anna was saying Poonam, that in that moment when your child does say these words to you, or it's what Anna said, in that moment, you have to sit. That's what creates the awareness. In that moment, you have to ask yourself, what is really going on here? Is my child tired? Does my child feel overwhelmed? Maybe my child is needing connection with me. Or you have to ask yourself, is it perhaps in this moment that my own expectations, is it my own past experiences that are now coloring how we are looking at this situation? I think that's the key, because is it that the child does need a need and they just overstimulated or anxious or upset, or is it really how I'm looking at the situation and something that's showing up within me? And that teaches us that, are we really just looking at the situation with our eyes or with our hearts? And I think that's what
That's
creates
the key.
to go, yeah, it's to go inwards. It's always is. It's not always what we see on the outside. It's what's beneath the surface. And I think that's the essence of step one of this journey. It's about going beneath the surface. It's about asking, like Anna said, asking those deeper questions in order to go deeper within. And that's what then allows us to move in that direction of connecting with our child and trying to understand what's showing up in the present moment. And I think when we begin to master then the step, that's why Anna said also in the beginning, it's more like a spiritual journey, because and Dr. Shefali always comes from this place, is because it is just that. It's conscious parenting is about creating consciousness. And once we begin to go within and master the step, I think your journey in parenting will be more fulfilling, but not only in parenting, but in every situation in your life, it becomes more
all
fulfilling.
relationships.
Yes.
Once you get to know yourself, you kind of improving every relationship that you have on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, and before we end, speaking of the village, I think nothing is new. We're not trying to do something new. I think we've just lost, even though, Poonam's dad's generation, our parents' generation, and our grandparents, they didn't have the awareness, but they had the connection. Things were happening more in tune with nature, with seasons, and all of that gave people a flow in all of the things that we're now trying to put into words and help ourselves guide us back to that. So I think it's just that we've become so disconnected from our nature and our rhythms and the way the world functions. And we live a bit artificially, right? We live in apartments, not on the land. We live in office jobs, not moving around. So all of these things do something to our psyche. And what we see as behavior is just when you add it all up, this is what you get. So we're just trying to find ourselves back into our nature and
True
into our
nature.
into our true nature and to that wisdom that our grandparents just had. And they might not have had the words, and they didn't see a need, but we as children, we would chip in a little bit from that. But our children don't have almost anything to chip from, because they're constantly on devices, and there's so much stimulation coming at them that even if you try to create boredom, you can't, because there's always something to do, always something to try, always something to experience, and never a dull moment, right? I think that's a
Yeah.
hashtag. Like, let's bring the dull
Yeah.
moments
That's
back.
right. Yes.
And I
So
think Anna, most parents would say, like, I think multiple of them would have heard their child say, "But I'm so bored right now."
As soon as that device closes, Magnus says the
Yeah.
same. He's like, I don't know what to
Yeah,
do. I'm like, that's fine. You can just not do anything and feel
just
this way for
be.
a while.
But the thing is, Anna, that we don't set an example ourselves. We as adults, we can't sit idle for a minute. Like we will
Yes.
instinctively turn the TV on or pick up our phone when we sit idle for even a second. I notice that all the time. Like even when we go out to dinner, like in a restaurant, most people have their phones in their hands. Like
Yeah.
they're not talking to each other. And I've seen, when my boys were young, they would invite their friends over, and all of them are on a gadget, and they're together,
Yeah.
but they are just on their own gadgets.
That's
Like
a challenge. Yeah.
we have lost human connection, and we are not modeling the right thing ourselves.
Yeah. And that's what we'll
Like,
discuss in this stuff,
yeah,
and we'll
yeah,
we'll share what we do to keep the balance.
yeah,
And we welcome you to leave a comment and say what has helped you. Anything helps, right? Anything that you do, a little practice of a weekend, something that you have in your family routine, all of that helps us bring back that sense of village. And
yeah,
now we do it. We do it online. And in a way, it's cool because we can come from different cultures and backgrounds and connect and resonate on the same ideas. And then we also understand that we have to take what we talk here and put it into practice out there.
implement.
So
Yeah,
we'll be going through 3 stages and 20 steps. So from frustration to clarity. So we'll get clarity from dysfunctional patterns to conscious choice. And this is where we'll get the how to and what to do. And we will help guide you guys in knowing what to do and also supporting you in doing it and feeling hard. Just like for our kids, boredom feels like the end of the world. This practice of consciousness for us parents feels the same. And many days, even us as coaches, we work with clients every day. And even we want to take a break. I hear my ego say, like, okay, can we just take a break from consciousness today? And sometimes I give myself that pause. It's okay
yeah,
to do so. And then the last stage is from conflict to connection. So that by the end of this book, and if you want to buy it and follow along, that would be great. You will get clarity as to what is what, and you will have this ability of discernment and observing your reactivity and moving it to a response and taking 2 steps back to create that pause. It's all about that pause.
yeah,
Danielle Siegel talks about the pause. Um, all of these
yeah.
parenting
Most people, yeah.
masters talk
Mm,
about the pause. The
the pause.
pause is where we move from one to another. And how to create the pause? Through going and being outside in nature, through
Mm,
meditation, through giving ourselves a break from this mental stimulation and constant um, run of our mind.
yeah.
So
And I would also like to say that we'll be here every Tuesday at about this time for about 15-20 minutes. So you're more than welcome to join us. And I would encourage you to write questions if you have any. We would take those questions up the next time if we have enough time.
Yeah, because the questions also help us and help us to expand
Yeah,
on,
yeah, as in what people need.
yes.
Yeah. And before we conclude, I just wanted to say one thing. You know how parents say, my child presses my buttons. And like we say that in many relationships with our partners too. I think they are very close to us, next to our children. But I want you to sit with this until we meet next time. What are your buttons? And why do you have buttons that can be pressed?
very cool. Thank you, Poonam, for that. And thank you everyone who's joined us and who's looking at us after. And thank you to Dr. Shefali for giving us this map and guide to start exploring our inner world. And we look forward to seeing you every week. for the next probably 20 plus weeks. So here we go. All right, guys. Have a good rest of your week and see you all
See you
next
next week.
Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.